Ladies and gentlemen, we might be back. There are tariff talks between China and the US finally. So, if you've been keeping an eye on these tariff talks or tariff rumors rather, and if you're an e-commerce store owner, this is extremely relevant to you because this could literally make the difference between, being negative in your profitability or making a ton of money. So, this is super relevant. And there's been so many rumors in the last few months since, actually, it's only been a month and a half or so since Trump officially enacted these crazy tariffs of like 100% plus on China goods. So let me talk about this new update that just happened. This is literally fresh. And also how this could affect your business. And also, of course, just more perspectives on what you can do during this time and what we're seeing our students do, our clients do, and some of our own brands do. So without further ado, as you see here, China's Vice Premier He Lifeng will meet U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Switzerland between 9 and 12th of May. Now, that's literally in like a few days, and they're finally going to start the negotiations. So we've seen so many tweets about how, they're planning negotiations and whatnot, and this literally sends the stock market up and down like crazy. Volatility has been insane due to these news. But now it seems it's actually real. So we're actually seeing these negotiations happen, which is super exciting. That definitely gives us a little bit more certainty on where things are headed. It's not a huge surprise to me because, of course, I always thought that there was going to be some sort of compromise, and we don't really know. I mean, this could actually go completely the other way and just turn into an even worse situation. But I'm, hoping that that's not the case. And I really don't think that's the case, especially given that other countries like India, for example, are now saying that they're negotiating with the U.S. and agreeing on like free tariffs, like no tariffs on any goods, things of that nature. And other countries are doing the same thing. Now, I highly doubt that's going to happen with China, of course. I don't think it's going to be just like no tariffs. But hey, who knows? Maybe it will be, right? And what could this mean? Well, a lot of things. This, first of all, means that you may have some hope if you've been really affected by tariffs, which I really do feel bad for a lot of these businesses that have been. Everybody has been affected by tariffs if you ship from China, but some businesses that have more expensive goods, they are getting destroyed. Whereas, businesses that have really cheap cost of goods, let's say like $2 per unit, I mean, now it's like $4 per unit, which isn't a huge deal. It is a big deal, but it's not like, just business ending kind of deal, right? So this is really exciting. And this was actually posted by the Chinese embassy. I posted, we're so back here because honestly, I'm just so excited for all this stuff to just be over so we can just get back to scaling normally without any sort of interruptions. However, we've been doing that either way. So we've been seeing clients continue to scale. One solution here that I want to give you guys that are just kind of like in limbo, you don't know what to do, is Supplyful. So I've been talking to the Supplyful team a lot lately. They're super cool guys, and I love their technology. This isn't sponsored. I love the technology layer that they're adding to all these manufacturers in the US. So they allow you to sell a ton of supplements, basically drop shipped, and brand them in a custom way, however you want, which is super exciting. And I've actually had multiple clients at the agency where we've run their meta ads that have been scaling to multi-six-figure months with Supplyful. So now we're in talks to negotiate potentially using them for one of our supplement brands, for example, that's doing 6 figures a month. We want to start testing out new products through them because it's basically risk-free. So that's something you can do, for example, is use suppliers like Supplyful, but also you can just find other suppliers all around the world too. There's definitely ways to get around, these tariffs, and also even with the tariffs themselves, right? Like if you have products that you are thinking of testing, my best suggestion, and this is what I've been telling the students in the Shopify Lab Accelerator too, is to go for low cost of goods products. Because again, if a product, I mean, let's look on AliExpress, for example, right? Like on AliExpress, we can still see a lot of goods be very cheap. A lot of things are really expensive now too, but like, for example, these sandals, I mean, that's super random. But these are like $1. So guess what? With 100% tariffs, they're not going to be like $3 or whatever, or $8. I mean, you get the point, right? When you're selling low cost of goods products, then a high percentage doesn't affect you as much. But if you're selling something that's like $50, that's how much it costs you. Now it's going to cost you like $120 or so. That's crazy. That's a huge difference. So I would suggest stick to low cost products during this time if you're just testing products. And again, that's why supplements, beauty products, consumables, those are great products right now because they're very cheap and inexpensive, yet they have the potential to be subscribed to, which I love that. I think that's some of the most powerful, that's one of the most powerful things you can have in e-commerce is the power of subscriptions on your side. I talk about that a lot on X. I said something related to that yesterday, and some people were coming at me, but I think some people actually understand what I'm talking about, which is that, if you are able to scale at a 1.2x ROAS and still be very profitable, it's just gonna, you're gonna completely plow the competition pretty much, right? And this is what we're seeing with brands like Hims, which I also want to do a video about. Hims, they just released their earnings report recently, and they're one of the biggest telehealth companies out there right now. They're one of the fastest growing supplement brands pretty much out there. They're worth like multi billions. But yeah, that's besides the point. I don't want to distract too much from this video. This is actually China's official statement here. And I do want to note that although, I'm saying we're so back, this is actually probably just getting started, right? Like the negotiation talks. It's not going to happen super fast. And I do think that China, it might play hardball, like they're saying here, for example, if the US says one thing but does another, or even attempts to use negotiations as a pretext to continue coercive and blackmailing tactics, China will never agree, nor will it sacrifice its principles or international fairness and justice to seek any agreement. So, they're kind of setting this pretense of like, we're not going to get taken advantage of. We're not going to, allow this sort of blackmailing, right? Which is understandable. I do think, this is just my personal opinion, right? I'm not an economist. I'm just the guy on YouTube. But I do think President Trump has kind of gone a little too strong on this. I think he's been a little crazy about it. However, I do understand where the trade talks are coming from. I mean, if you took a look at some of the tariffs that countries charge the U.S., it is definitely unfair. I mean, it's not fair. But I don't think this has been the right approach. Again, I don't really know, but that's just my opinion. So we'll see what happens, right? We'll see how these negotiations go. Luckily, it's not going to be Trump himself out there negotiating, right? It's going to be these, the diplomats. So that's nice. That could be a good thing. But we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. Also, it does help that other countries are accepting the negotiations with the U.S. It's looking good for other countries too with the U.S. Like, that's nice. I think that's definitely going to influence China to potentially have a lighter position. And we'll see. Hopefully this all actually ends up better for everybody. That's like the ideal situation. I don't want to like be super wishful thinking, right? I don't want to have like a ton of wishful thinking here. I think ultimately the best thing you can do is prepare for the worst. And then if the best happens, then, you're going to be on a rocket ship to Mars pretty much with your ecom brand. And if you're an investor in the stock market, then same thing, or in crypto, same thing. I feel like any positive news event is going to cause just more economic prosperity, at least on the stock market and just in general. But we'll see what happens. Again, try to prepare yourself for anything. So, you could test out Shopify. You could test out, for example, on Alibaba, you could reach out to suppliers from India. You could reach out to suppliers from Thailand. Watch some of my videos where I talk about different trends and things of that nature, and just find products in those categories and just ask them if they can ship directly to your customer. A lot of them will say yes, especially if you can kind of sell yourself as someone that can bring a lot of volume, which you can if you follow our blueprints, right? If you follow our scaling approach and things like that. But yeah, that's pretty much about it for this video. Just wanted to talk about, these news. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm happy that things are moving in the right direction, or hopefully, I don't know if they're moving in the right direction, but they're at least moving, right? We're not just getting like constant misinformation on people saying that there are talks happening or there aren't talks happening. It's like, man, just tell me the truth. Tell me it is happening or it isn't, right? But don't keep me in limbo. That's how I feel, at least. But let me know what you think. I want to know your opinion. Let me know in the comments, especially if you're from China. I love to get the Chinese perspective on this. because of course in the U.S. we're kind of plagued with just one perspective, but I do want to hear the other perspectives out there too. I consulted with some of my friends at Calodata. They're in China, and they, their perspective was really interesting. They think this is kind of either probably a way for Trump to just kind of nuke the world economy so that the U.S. has a way to recover faster, and then kind of be in an advantageous position. I don't really believe that personally. I don't think he's trying to crash the world economy or anything. But hey, nobody really knows. That's about it though. Peace.